Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first board meeting, full board meeting of 2022. It is January 24th. My name is Ryan Painter. I am chair of the Greater Victoria School Board, and we have joining us tonight a lot of people, including your board of trustees, stakeholders, rights holders, and many other fantastic people in this district. I want to start by acknowledging with a territorial acknowledgement, the Greater Victoria School District wishes to recognize and acknowledge the Esquimalt and Songhees nations on whose traditional territories we live, we learn, and we do our work. We do have some amendments to the agenda, but before we dive in, can I have a mover to approve the agenda for tonight, please? Moved by Tom, seconded by Elaine. We'll start with the first item, which is to strike under correspondence B7 at the request of the submitter. So we're going to strike that from the agenda. And then under B9, we have a new motion to add, which will also include some discussion from the board. And the motion, let me just find it here because I want to read it into the record. The motion is as follows: that the Board of Education direct the chair to write a letter in response to the January 12th, 2022 Friends of Balco Creek and Camosun Community Association letter confirming the board's authority to enter into a purchase and sale agreement conditional on the approval of the minister and 3 readings of the board's bylaw, and further, that the letter be copied to the minister's rights holders and district stakeholders copied in the original letter and the district of Saanich. That will be added to B9 or under B9. And then I believe, Kim, I think we also have another piece to add.
Yeah, under B13, we have a letter of support request from Pacifica Housing.
Excuse me,
Kim.
Chair.
Trustee, Trustee Whitaker. Yeah, let's see your hand. Go ahead.
Can I ask that we vote on that separately from the other changes so that I can recuse myself from that piece of the vote?
Oh, the Pacifica piece? Yes, we can.
Yeah,
why don't we
so can we
pull that out?
separately?
Yeah, let's pull that out and we can do that secondarily. Thank you for the reminder. So we'll do that after we do this first set.
And I would also like to add a trustee report, please.
A trustee report. Okay, so we can add that under trustee reports, C2A. Any other additions to the agenda? And I will ask staff to help me along the way because we are doing this on the fly and I might make a misstep, but I trust everyone is watching me. Okay, so we'll do the first set of approval of the amended agenda. Can I have an approval of the amendments, please? Trustee Whitaker, Trustee Leonard, second. All those in favor? And any opposed? None opposed. And then we have a second addition required, which is a request for letter of support from Pacifica Housing to be added to B13. And Trustee Whitaker, sorry, did you want to just reiterate that for folks who may not have heard, or you're okay?
No, I think people get it. I don't vote on anything to do with Pacifica.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a mover to add that to the agenda, please? Moved by Elaine, seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Abstentions? It is opposed by Trustee Rob Painter, is that right? Okay, thank you. And we have an approved agenda. Okay, so let's go to approval of the minutes. Moved by Tom, seconded by Trustee Whitaker. Any discussion on the minutes? Trustee Whitaker, please.
I have an amendment for you under D1F. I would like to strike at the end of that motion, the part that says with the announced $7.5 billion of federal funding. Well, it was what we passed. It's not what we're doing because it was added at the last meeting. But it's old money. It's not relevant to today. So
Sure.
I would just see striking that.
Sure. Yeah, that's, and we did in fact strike that. So that is fine. We can strike that out.
Well,
Any other amendments to the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the approving the minutes from December 13th, 2021. All those in favor? And any opposed? None opposed, and that is unanimous. I'm just trying to, sorry folks, just need to move my squares all did something funny here. So there we go. Okay. All right. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Rob, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll defer to your direction on this one. I had a question with respect to the Secretary Treasurer's report, so I could do it now or under trustee questions, and so I'm not quite sure if it's business arising or.
Sorry, just it went one ear and out the other. Is it the Secretary Treasurer's report from the December 13th minutes?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
I think this is appropriate. Go ahead.
Okay, and I also appreciate that we had a conversation about budget during the ops meeting, in which case it wouldn't be appropriate. So if I've got it wrong, then I apologize and I'll withdraw. But I was just looking for a bit of clarification, and it had to do with respect to the budgetary impact of collective agreement increases, and that they were last year in discussion, they had shifted from being a separate line item to being rolled into the per capita funding. And if my recollection is correct, during the discussion, I believe the Secretary Treasurer indicated that it was not a significant factor. And if that's right, then I realized that I was laboring under a misapprehension when I was last year during the budget season. I just want to make sure I get my head straight, because in the March 29th board meeting, wages brackets, collective agreement increases and 21-22 staffing adjustments added up to a pressure of like 4.8 million. And elsewhere on page 95, teacher labor statement, sorry, bad notes, was listed as 5.6 million as a pressure. And so, recognizing I could be discussing apples and oranges, I was just wondering if that's something I could get some clarification on, so I know going forward.
Sure. Thanks, Rob. Kim, over to you.
So clarification on the budget impact of collective agreements being fully funded or not. And so I'm not sure, I'd have to look at the March 29th board meeting, Trustee Painter, but I'm not sure what the 4.8 is referring to. I do believe the 5.6 million may have been the funding that was received in that fiscal year, but I really, yeah, I'm not sure. Back to March.
And I fully appreciate
dates, Rob.
Yeah, I fully appreciate rattling
tonight.
numbers off in the middle of a meeting is not the way to go, but just so with reference, they were March 29th, page 98 and 95. And I did notice that April 13th, the budget presentation wasn't there. I was able to find it on the video, but it wasn't included in the presentation package. So perhaps that could be addressed about the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Any other business arising from the minutes? If none, we can go to our community presentations. And we will start with Soren Heinrich, Friends of Balco Creek Society. Soren, you have 5 minutes. I will time you. I will let you know when you have a minute left. And then I always give folks a little bit of grace to wrap up their points. So you'll have a little bit of extra time at the end, but we'll try to keep it tight. So Soren, 5 minutes is over to you.
Thank you, Chair Painter. So of course I'm speaking regarding the item E2D1 land disposal at Lansdowne South. I'm a director of the Friends of Balco Creek Society and a community representative on the Balco Creek Initiative Steering Committee. I have 3 basic points to make tonight regarding the public engagement. From the December 13th meeting minutes, Secretary Treasurer Morris provided the land disposal and public consultation report and advised that correspondence received after the report had been produced will appear in tonight's meeting agenda package. And also on the YouTube video conference, both staff and chair committed to cross-check and sync up all the submissions so that the board would get a complete package in the January agenda. Some of that has been done, but we would like to point out that despite these commitments made the December 13th meeting, there continues to be public submissions on this topic that have not been included in your agenda package. For example, on that date, on December 13th, we resent an email with 2 attachments, and we're disappointed that this additional 220 pages of input are not included in the package tonight, and we would appreciate knowing why. And second point is regarding the process. So we're under the understand that there's a purchase and sale agreement that's conditional on the minister's signature. And we note that the minister's order says that you must approve of disposal before, the minister must approve of disposal before SD61 enters into an agreement to sell. So I hear the word conditional. But all our alarm is based on the fact that we understand that there is already an agreement to sell. And your own ministry guidance document is very clear on the interpretation of the order. A question is posed, number 12, is a Board of Education able to enter into an agreement to sell prior to receiving ministerial approval? And the answer is given no. Ministerial approval is required before entering into any such agreements, etc. And also about public engagement, trustees and staff, you received a letter from us on November 24th that is included in the agenda package tonight. And so I hope you're well aware of the contents of that letter and our position, which I won't repeat too much tonight. I understand that I just heard tonight that there is an addition to the agenda under correspondence item B9 that we will be receiving a letter from SD61, and that letter will be copied to the District of Saanich. I believe that's what I heard tonight. And my final point tonight is regarding the educational purposes of the site. I wish the trustees would consider seriously the special conditions of this site and special opportunities that we have, in that there's a creek running beside a school with open fields and open banks on both sides. And so I noted in tonight's agenda under the same item D1, the land sale, a recommended motion item F, whereas if the board is satisfied that the subdivision and sale will not interfere with the use by the board.
You've got 1 minute, Soren.
Of the remainder of the property for educational purposes. And my point is, on this case is, may I suggest that this publicly owned property is needed for educational purposes and should not be sold. Consider the rare opportunity for children growing up in the city to have safe access to study Balco Creek up close from primary grades through middle school, high school, as provided by SD61 at Oak Bay High, and on to post-secondary studies at UVic, including the living labs Indigenous Education Program. Thank you very much, Chair Painter and trustees for hearing this.
Thank you once again, Soren, for coming to present to us. We do appreciate your time. It is valuable, and we appreciate your perspective and your input. We will go now to Alexa Tutton, QP 947 Education Assistant, a day in the life of an EA. Alexa, you have 5 minutes. I will give you a 1-minute warning. And as I said with Soren, I do give some grace if we are wrapping up a thought or finishing a key point. So Alexa, over to you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you for this opportunity. These thoughts have been building within myself and many of my colleagues for years now. How you know you've made it as an educational assistant? You consider yourself quite the multitasker. Even though you are one-on-one, you can totally handle these 3, maybe more extremely challenging behavior kids at once. And let's be honest, you don't really have a choice, as yet again, no one has come in to replace your coworker. Your schedule has been changed for the 3rd time this week. You may not have worked with the student before, but you'll have to figure something out as you don't have time to read the IEP. The guilt that you won't be replaced supersedes the fact that you need a day off for your own mental well-being because you don't want your students to go without support. You hit the jackpot with the teacher you're teamed up with this year. I'm sure they appreciate the extra hours you've put in outside of your workday to create all of these visual schedules and other student supports. You're finally seeing some improvements. You've unfortunately become extremely proficient at completing behavior slips and violent incident forms on your own time, may I add, because your support is needed every minute that you are on the clock. You love working with kids so much that you've even found a second job at an out-of-school care after your day at the school is done. Oh wait, you do love kids, but it's really so that you can attempt to pay your bills. You make plans to get away with your limited finances for your much-deserved time off. Man, we're so lucky to get 2 weeks off for spring break, but you end up being sick for the entire first week because you've pushed yourself so hard up until this point. You have your admin and or your student guardian's phone number a quick touch away in your phone just in case. You're spending the majority of your time managing extremely challenging behavior as opposed to creating meaningful relationships and supporting learning. You're always tired. When a new sub actually joins your school for the day, you spend a lot of your time training them while somehow also attempting to manage your many other duties. You are paid the same as someone who's brand new to the profession, even after 12 years of working. That makes sense, right? Yes, I realize this is not the type of letter you're used to hearing. These are daily situations that inhibit us from being able to do our job, supporting vulnerable students in getting a meaningful education. What we more often find ourselves supporting is the behavior of students who are not managing due to us not having the time to build necessary relationships, which are integral to our work. The reality of this in this profession is tanking. People's emotional, mental, and physical health are being compromised, and the lives of our future generation are not being made a priority. Our district claims that students are at the center of everything we do in the Greater Victoria School District. But if this were true, shouldn't we do everything possible to make sure their learning and safety is being fully supported? Without sufficient support in classrooms, behavior issues are becoming a constant interference in the learning of other students. Even with some of the amazing teaching relationships that I've created over the years, a lack of educational assistance in schools and classrooms mean we truly do not have the opportunity to support every child in need, which I may add is increasing at an alarming rate. I see this happening on a daily basis. We are going years of being short-staffed, and it's time to talk about why, because it's not a secret. No one can make a living on 27 on less hours a week. Not a single mom, not a husband whose wife is a teacher, not me. To the cut to the chase, after 12 years in this profession, of which I love and will say I'm damn good at, if things don't change drastically, I will be leaving. Really, I should say that I'm being forced to find alternative employment. I simply cannot pay my bills.
Alexa, you've
and
got 1
ultimately
minute
my
left.
mental health, husband, and 1.5-year-old son deserve better than me coming home at the end of the day beyond exhausted. Our profession is in serious jeopardy, and I don't mean from a lack of need, but from being completely unsustainable. Change needs to happen now. Provide us with the deserved hours and wage necessary to earn a proper living so we can continue to do the work we love, and so our youth can be supported in earning the education they deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexa, for your letter. I'm wondering if you feel comfortable, and you certainly don't have to, if you wanted to email that to trustees. I'm sure we would appreciate to see that. Our email is trustees@sd61.bc.ca. Your speech tonight and that letter and taking the time to do that, it matters and it's important. So thank you for that. And I'm sure we'll all be sure to read it through, and it's powerful that you've come to talk to us. So thank you.
Thank you. I think Jane sent it in, but I can definitely email it again as well.
Okay, great. We can double check. There's a lot of emails in the inbox. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and we'll now move on to Peter Haddon, SD61 Land Disposal. Peter, same for you, 5 minutes. I'll give you a 1 minute warning and you'll get a bit of grace. Go ahead, Peter, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chair Painter and trustees, for the opportunity to speak tonight as a grandparent with children in the public school system and a volunteer with the Friends of Balco Creek. Really, a heartfelt thank you for all the work you do. We are proud to be partners with local governments, UVic, VHA, and SD61. Together, we have taken responsibility to restore the creek, guided by the Balco Creek Blueprint, a 100-year action plan for the watershed. I live close to one of the tributaries of Balco Creek, and working with the lands adjacent to the creek, it has introduced me to the plant life, wildlife, creek conditions, and the pleasure of working with hundreds of volunteers who love the creek. I believe your endorsement of the Blueprint vision recognizes the need to preserve the creek and adjacent green spaces so parents and children can roam, explore, experience nature as part of a healthy childhood. Sadly, only 3 kilometers of the creek's 8-kilometer main watercourse flows above the ground. Decade by decade, the growth of urban development has buried 5 kilometers of the creek, and neither you or your children's children will see these lost sections of the creek again. It is widely acknowledged that human activity has caused climate change, and parents like me are kept awake at night, wondering about the children and future generations. To help sustain our environment, community volunteers work to restore the creek and adjacent land to protect it from further development. However, collaboration between volunteers and property owners is critical to this work, so SD61's leadership is an important part of achieving the vision of the blueprint for the public lands that it holds. And indeed, SD61's collaboration with Oak Bay was critical to completing the first major restoration under the blueprint at Oak Bay High School, an inspiring demonstration of trustee commitment to Oak Bay, watershed, and to students. And then in 2018, SD61 unanimously endorsed the blueprint and the preferred action for lands down south that provides a better solution for students by moving the creek to the west to increase the playing field area by the school and to widen the creek so it will flow more slowly, making it safer and more accessible. In 2019, Saanich, in partnership with Victoria, Oak Bay, and the CID, purchased the BC Hydro lands, another major step to restore the creek. And notably, BC Hydro followed ministry policy that allowed Saanich to acquire this property. And subsequently, Saanich refused offers to actually sell the property for development. It honored its commitment to the blueprint and the communities all along the creek. And finally, something of a celebration, because a few days ago, the Friends of Balco Creek and Peninsula Stream Society made the first step to introduce salmon by placing 30,000 salmon eggs in the creek. So big event. It was therefore to our great surprise that SD61 announced their intention to sell Lansdowne South property and the creek for construction of a large building. When the society approached SD61 to buy the property, staff knew little about the unique value of the property or the trustees' commitment to the blueprint. And really, there is a spirit to
Peter,
the
you're
Ministry
at
of
1 minute. Just a warning, 1 minute.
Thank you. There's a spirit to the Ministry of Education's policy on land disposal, and it's pretty clear. There might be some legal maneuvering in the background to change this, but SD61 must first consult Saanich and the community in disposal. And it's important to note that the purchase agreement was initiated by the society and not by SD61. So the property disposal was not part of SD61's financial planning process. And I understand that SD61's capital reserve are more than adequate. And in closing, I encourage Chair Painter and trustees to consider the needs of our children, the community, the environment, and the impact of climate change. Surely the future well-being of our children and grandchildren was what drove SD61's endorsement of the blueprint in the first place. And this is worth more than $2.5 million. And so with all respect, please reject this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, for your presentation. And thank you for coming to us tonight to speak. It is very appreciated. Next, we have Deanna Pfeiffer. I'm sorry if I have not pronounced that right. Next, you have 5 minutes. Again, same deal. I will give you a 1 minute warning with a little bit of grace. Deanna, the floor is yours.
Hi, it's Deanna Pfeiffer of Saanich. Good evening, Chair Painter and trustees. I'm here tonight to talk about agenda item E2D1, the proposed land disposal at Lansdowne Middle School to Victoria Hospice. I have worked at the hospital caring for critically ill and dying patients for 35 years. I know hospice very well and can't say enough good things about them. They are truly a special team that do incredible work. As a nurse with end-of-life experience, I have a unique perspective I would like to share. I have a few thoughts for consideration. Being located on a school field may not be well suited for patients in their final days. Typically, these patients require significant narcotics and medications to keep them comfortable and less anxious. A schoolyard environment can be quite noisy with frequent buzzers, whistles during games, announcements, children yelling throughout the day. And if the patient or family have access to an open window for fresh air, the noise level could be quite distressing at times for the patient and possibly not conducive to a serene, low stimulation environment such as hospice would require. But to me, this deal is not about hospice. The short-sighted proposed sale of this land threatens the health and restoration of Balco Creek, also known as Taiwan. It is also worth noting that selling and developing that public property wasn't envisioned in the 2011 Balco Creek Blueprint, a 100-year vision for the restoration of the Balco Creek watershed. A multi-decade-long effort led by CRD, local governments, and multiple community partners. School District 61 actually supported and endorsed the blueprint in 2018. The immediate community and Friends of Balco Creek Society have been excluded from discussions, despite School District 61 having actively supported restoration of Balco Creek. The blueprint recommends meandering the creek, improving habitat and biodiversity, and using the triangle to help mitigate flooding and property damage, which is projected to worsen with climate change. Because of the relatively small size and triangular shape of the property, it's unlikely that a building, parking lot, or parking lots and flood mitigation can all be accommodated on that site. But regardless, School District 61 refuses to engage. Our urban area is at a deficit of green space, and our area continues to densify at an unprecedented rate. You might be interested to know that the school field is actually allocated in our local area plan as our community's access to green space. To give you an example of the densification we are experiencing, 2 single-family dwelling houses on my street have now become 16-unit, 3-story buildings. And this kind of densification is the plan for all the homes in our area. Each development means the loss of yards and trees for children. Access to nature is essential for proper brain development and should not be underestimated. The creek and green space provide biodiversity and is essential for climate action and adaptation, critical for our survival. In 2022, we don't think it's good public policy to be selling our public water courses and the lands immediately around them. As trustees of a board of education, this is a perfect opportunity to model sound leadership for the next generation. Your decision tonight teaches students about their leaders and whether they walk the talk in School District 61 about environmental stewardship and protecting last remaining pieces of nature in a climate emergency, or if a short-term profit outcompetes long-term sound decision-making.
Deanna, you've got 1 minute left.
Thank you, Chair Painter. As a community member, I would like to work together and support School District 61 to get the adequate funding it needs and find a suitable location for hospice on developed land. We do not pave green spaces in 2022. We work and fight to protect them. Development should occur on developed land and not chip away at what's left of urban green space. It's not a sustainable solution. Once it's gone, we can't get it back. Thank you so much for your time and consideration tonight.
Thank you, Deanna, and thank you for your comments and your additions to this discussion. I will also make sure that we amend the spelling of your last name for the minutes so we can get that sneaky F back in there. But yes, thank you very much for presenting to us tonight. We really appreciate it. Our final presenter, Kevin Harter, CEO of Victoria Hospice Society. Kevin, same rules apply. 5 minutes. I'll give you a 1 minute warning. Kevin, over to you.
Thank you, Chair Painter. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to speak about Victoria Hospice and our proposed design intent for the Lansdowne South campus site. I am Kevin Harter, and I have had the honor and privilege of being the CEO of Victoria Hospice for more than 3 years now. I'm sure most of you are familiar with Victoria Hospice. For more than 4 decades, we have worked to enhance the quality of life of people facing life-limiting illness, death, and bereavement. Our highly skilled team members, researchers, and educators are leaders in hospice and palliative care, pain and symptom management, and psychosocial services. We have helped more and more people over the years thanks to our partnership with Island Health and our generous donor community. If I might ask, there was a presentation with this that I believe the IT person was going to bring up.
Yes, Andy, can we get that presentation from Hospice up? I'm just going to pause until we get that.
Absolutely, I'll load that up now.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll pause. Don't worry, your time is not ticking down.
Thank you.
Okay, just loading up now. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Andy. Okay, there we go. It is up.
If you could go to page 3, please.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you so much. There is a lot more that we need to do. Oh, back. I have it as page 3. It should be the page before that. There we go. Sorry. There's a lot more that we need to do. By 2035, the population of people age 75 and over on Vancouver Island is expected to more than double. to meet the individual and system needs and to ensure good quality of life for people who are dying and their loved ones, we desperately need a new home. For more than 15 years, we have searched and researched dozens of possible locations. We have worked hard to secure this potential site. The natural attributes and proximity to the Royal Jubilee Hospital make this proposed location a perfect fit for the needs of hospice clients. Next slide, please. Many community members and organizations, such as the Friends of Balco Creek, are rightly passionate about the restoration of the creek. I want to assure you that we are committed to restoring and stewarding this part of the very important Balco Creek watershed. We have hired a registered professional biologist who specializes in riparian area restoration, a stormwater engineer who specializes in flood management, and a landscape architect who specializes in native plant restoration. We have engaged with the District of Saanich, the CRD, and met with the Friends of Balco Creek. As we move through this process, we will continue to engage with any and all stakeholder groups. After thoroughly reviewing the Balco Creek Initiative Blueprint and Master Drainage Plan, we have developed a design intent that meets the initiative's objectives. Our proposal allows for a diverse array of environment and social benefits, including multi-use green space for hospice clients and families, an outdoor classroom, and an opportunity for public greenway access. Next slide, please. Just like the Balco Creek Initiative Blueprint, our restoration design proposes to meander and widen the creek, engineer slope banks to slow erosion, improve safety, and alleviate flooding, improve and increase the riparian area habitat with a 20-meter wide stream protection enhancement area, enhance the riparian area by removing invasive species and planting native species at a high density with a combination of shrubs, forbs, and trees, and design a new natural diversified greenway. We have invested in qualified environmental professionals to ensure we meet the objectives and guidelines set out by the District of Saanich in the streamlined development permit area documentation.
Got about a minute left, Kevin.
Our proposal will adhere to the development permit guidelines, meet the modeling options of the master drainage system, and address environmental concerns. Next slide, please. We are committed to the vital restoration of the creek and the watershed. Everyone here today cares about the protection and restoration of Balco Creek and about compassionate care for people who are dying. Victoria Hospice and Balco Creek are both valuable assets that are essential to the health and well-being of our community. We ask you to join us in the protection of both treasures for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Kevin. That was right on time. I'm just going to get back to my agenda here. Excuse me, trustees. Okay. We'll now move into correspondence. I am speaking good. So we have quite a bit of correspondence. I'm going to look to trustees to see what they would like to pull out and discuss. Nicole, I see you, and then I will go to Trustee Whitaker after.
Yeah, pardon me, Chair. I actually just wondered if we could get a copy of Mr. Harder's slides sent to us.
I believe they were sent in. But you want, yeah, if internal, you have them, so internally you can access them.
Kim, could we get those sent to trustees? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Trustee Whitaker.
Okay, thank you. I would like to pull B8, and we're already pulling B9 and B10, please.
Kate, B8, B9, and B10. Trustees, do you want to pull any other correspondence for discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we are pulling B8, B9, and B10. Trustee Whitaker, since you wanted to pull, I will let you lead off any questions or comments you have, starting with B8.
Actually, can we start with B10 and I'll go backwards? Just, I
Yeah,
think it's the
that's just
easier.
fine.
That I think is the easier. I just noticed at the end of B8, there is a paragraph that says, just to clarify, the money of the proposed sale will go towards the upgrade of Cedar Hill Middle School. The ministry is only partially funding the project. The money is needed not because there is a mandate to build a higher standard, but because School District 61 decided to build to a higher standard. I just think that, anyway, it continues on. And my thought is that can we reply to this letter to clarify the errors in that statement? One, I don't believe that the money is going, the money from the sale would go into the capital fund and not specifically to Cedar Hill. Stood out for me. Am I correct? Yeah, okay. So can we reply with that correction? Because I think that's how things get out of control. So that was my first one.
But before we get off that, I don't want to lose the thread. We don't need a motion. Is the board okay with me writing a response, including those details? Just looking for nods or thumbs up. Yeah, everyone looks happy. Okay. I will make a note of that here. Trustee Whitaker, please go ahead.
Okay, so then let's go to B8 after that. And I note if you go from this document into the document of the asks that there was, one, I think we should send a reply letter to them, thanking them for the advocacy on our behalf. And then under their ask one, so it's linked in this document in their advocacy, and it indicates that Mitzi Dean and Chair Painter were going to be meeting and that they were going to provide details. So I guess I'm looking for some follow-up from Chair Painter as to what was the result from the meeting with Mitzi Dean.
Sorry, can you refer? I have not met with Emily Dean. We had a discussion not relating to school trustee business, but I have not spoken with her about this. Sorry, can you show me the page so I can just refer?
If you go into the document on page 83, it says see notes here for brief meeting descriptions. And if you click on that and you go to their asks of what they have been advocating for, under ask one is that statement. So I guess that's the result to that. And then if you go further into that, into the ask number 3, there's it discusses Fortis and their curriculum. And I guess for me, and my question is, as we move forward with our climate action plan, what are we going to do to ensure that the curriculum that we are using in our classrooms is aligned with our values? The concern and the complaint brought up by the Dogwood Initiative is that we're using curriculum from Fortis and that what is contained within that curriculum doesn't align with the climate action plan or what are best practices. So I guess my question is to the superintendent as to what are we going to do as Sean Powell is working on ensuring curriculum for climate action in our classrooms, that what we're using is proper.
Through the chair, that will be a discussion with the committee as we look to develop the TOR. So it would be in line with the BC curriculum.
Okay, so just a heads up, maybe we need to look at what's written in there under Ask 3 and what is going on in our classrooms in regards to that. And then I guess I would just put out to my colleagues who are keen that this really to me sounds like a BCSTA motion to ensure that the curriculum and that's available for our teachers to use, because it always takes time to create this, that it is getting vetted. So that's what I have on B8 for you.
Thank you, Trustee Whitaker. And sorry, before we get off that, Trustee Whitaker, I am sorry, perhaps I am daft. I'm not seeing the reference to me meeting with Emily Dean. So I'm on page 83. Perhaps if you can point that out to me, or maybe we can discuss it offline.
So on page 83, it's at the top paragraph. It says see notes. click on that.
Oh, it's not opening for me. That's the problem. Okay. Anyways, we can follow up again. I've just got a rotating circle. Please continue, Trustee Whitaker.
No, that's it. B9 was pulled by all of us, so I won't lead that.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other discussion on B8, B9, or B10 to be discussed?
I assume we're going to discuss B9, right?
I'm waiting for trustees to chime in. Trustee Whitaker.
We have a motion for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so does somebody want to put the motion on the floor?
Okay, trustees, we have a motion under 9 to respond to the letter from the Balco Creek Society and Camosun Community Association. I'm happy to reread that back if trustees are not familiar or can't recall, because it was brought up very quickly prior to this meeting. Would trustees like me to read that back so that we can get a reference to it? Yeah, okay, let me just jump back into my other agenda here. That the Board of Education direct the chair to write a letter in response to the January 12th, 2022 Friends of Balco Creek and Camosun Community Association letter, confirming the board's authority to enter into a purchase and sale agreement conditional on the approval of the minister and 3 readings of the board's disposal bylaw, and further, that the letter be copied to the ministers, rights holders, and district stakeholders copied in the original letter and the district of Saanich. So that is the motion. Can I have a mover for that motion? Moved by Elaine and Tom. Thank you. Is there discussion on the proposed letter to write? Trustee Whitaker, I see you've gone off mute. Go ahead.
I'll let Trustee Duncan go first.
All right, Nicole, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I was just going to propose an amendment, actually. So maybe we want to hear from Trustee Whitaker first. I don't know. But, I was going to propose an amendment after the words disposal bylaw and adding, just bear with me a second, and a response to the other outstanding items in the letter.
I would second that amendment. That's more where I was headed to.
Okay, so we have a amendment to the motion to add after disposal bylaw. I'm sorry, Nicole, I did not catch all of that. Could you just repeat it for us, please?
And a response to the other outstanding items in the letter.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on the proposed amendment? Nicole, did you want to motivate on that at all? I think it's pretty clear, but I want to give you an opportunity as the mover if you did want to speak to it.
Yeah, I just very briefly will say that I think that some of the concerns, or many of the concerns, if not all the concerns outlined in the letter in quite a lot of detail with some supporting documents, are shared by other members of the community and some of our stakeholders and rights holders. And so I think that it would be helpful for us to provide a response to those concerns. I think would benefit not just the folks that took the time to write the letter, but also to the other members of our community that have the same concerns.
Thank you. And Trustee Whitaker, as a seconder, you can also speak.
I would just add that I really think it's important that when we answer all the questions.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing and hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment as proposed, please signify by raising your hand. We have, okay, and opposed? And abstentions? Okay, so we have Trustee Waters abstaining, Trustees Leonard and Ferris opposed, and the balance in favor. That is the amendment which has passed. So now the motion as amended is on the floor. Is there any further discussion on the motion as amended? Elaine, go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's just, it's sometimes very difficult to respond to every question that somebody asks in the letter because number one, it's outside the scope of what we can do at a particular point in time, what we do without knowing the next steps in a process. So I'm always hesitant about saying that you're going to try and answer every question from a letter. So I hope that it's taken in the context that where we can, we will answer questions, but just letting people know that it's sometimes difficult, depending where you are in the process, to answer things in the future.
Thanks, Elaine. And that's certainly how I've received the amendment, is we will answer the questions that we can in the way that we can at the time that the letter is written and sent. Any further discussion on the amended motion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor of the amended motion, please signify raising your hands. And any opposed? Any abstentions? Trustee Leonard abstains, the balance in favor. Thank you, everybody. Before we jump through correspondence, is there anything else in correspondence we want to deal with, or are we satisfied and we can move forward? I feel like folks are, no, okay. Nicole, please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Before we move on, I just really want to, I don't need to enter into a long discussion, but I just really want to acknowledge B1 and the advocacy work that has gone on at the provincial level, but with a lot of our counterparts on various boards around the province, to really advocate for increased annual facilities grant funding to deal with the huge amount of deferred maintenance across the province. So I just wanted to acknowledge that it's on under our correspondence, and to acknowledge the work of our counterparts in other school districts.
Well said, Nicole. And I would be remiss if I left correspondence without dealing with B13, which was added at moving of the agenda, which I've just remembered we added at the beginning, which is the Pacifica request for support. So trustees have the information provided to them, but perhaps I can turn it to staff if they have anything to add to lead us into this discussion, either in terms of Superintendent Whitten or Secretary Treasurer Morris, if you had anything to let us know about before we start discussing this request to support.
Sure.
Ahead,
this letter arrived late Thursday, or I'm sorry, late Friday afternoon. So the reason it's sort of been added to the agenda today is that Pacific goes before City of Victoria Council on February 24th, which is before our next board meeting date. So thank you to the board for considering this late correspondence.
Very good. Thank you, Kim. So we should consider this, and I'm not sure how trustees want to handle it. I see Elaine has her hand up. Elaine, go ahead.
A motion to write a letter of support in favor of Pacifica Housing's request going before City of Victoria Council on February 24th.
Okay, we have a motion, trustees. Any seconder? Yes, Trustee Ferris. Tom, thank you very much. Any discussion on the motion to write a letter of support? Elaine, you did move, so you can speak to it if you'd like, or we can just go to a vote. It's up to you.
Nope, I'm fine, thank you.
Very good. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I will call the question. All those in favor of the motion as proposed? Okay, thank you. And opposed? And with Trustee Nicole Duncan and Rob Painter opposed. Any abstentions? So we have Nicole and Rob opposed and the balance in favor, and Trustee Whitaker is recused herself, so she is not taking part in this discussion. Okay, we have moved to the next piece. Trustee Whitaker, thank you for coming back. We will now move to trustee reports, chair's report. My report is attached. Before I go into my report, well, I'm not discussing the report, but I did want to note two important events that are coming up in very close in our calendar. January 27th is International Holocaust Remembrance Day, or also known as Yom HaShoah. It is a time to remember all of those who perished, 6 million Jews during the Second World War. That is on January 27th. And then February 1st is the start of Black History Month, which is a time to recognize and celebrate the contributions of Black British Columbians and Canadians to the fabric of our society and the continued contributions that they do make. I encourage those who are interested to go to a local organization, BC Black History Awareness Society. They have a lot of information, and they've listed several events that will actually be taking place during the month of February in support of Black History Month 2022. So I do encourage folks to go and check that out. And my chair's report is attached. Are there any questions about the report? Trustee Whitaker.
Thank you. I note in your report a couple of meetings that I have questions on. So you had a meeting on January 13th with disability advocates. Was there a message that you wanted to bring back about that? Or was there a message from the board that you were taking?
No message from the board. There was a discussion we had around education assistance and the advocacy that these advocates are doing to bring in standards of practice for education assistance. So they were wanting to bring their concerns to me, their desire to continue to do that work, and hope that boards of education across the province can continue to support standards of practice for education assistance.
Are you going to give us a report on that?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
Were you going to bring forward a report on that, or were they just giving?
I'm sorry, Trustee Whitaker. I'm sorry. You're very muffled. I cannot hear you.
Are you going to bring forward a report saying that and all of the information that they wanted us to hear, or were they just wanting you to hear that information? Because we are a corporate board.
They reached out to me, asked for a meeting to sit down and talk about their concerns with me. I met with them and I heard their concerns.
Okay, so I guess my question is, was that a meeting of the board chair, or was that a meeting that you had?
It was a meeting that I had with disability advocates in the community.
Okay. Then I would also like to, you had a meeting and a walkabout at Margaret Jenkins with parents regarding road safety and other concerns. Can we get a report on what those road safety and other concerns were?
Yeah, so they were concerned about traffic along the road in front of Margaret Jenkins School. So we did a walkabout around to look at the improvements that they were anticipating the City of Victoria to make. We also discussed, and I'm forgetting the name of the street, which is right behind Margaret Jenkins, their hope that that street could be turned into a one-way street, and also some desired ideas around pedestrian safety and bump outs for that section of street. We also toured around Margaret Jenkins to speak about capital infrastructure improvements. There were some questions around solar and potential for different things to be done when and if that building is brought forward for seismic.
So did you have that meeting on behalf of the board? And
Trustee
Trustee
Whitaker, your next question, please.
Well, that is my next question. Did the PAC believe that they were meeting with the board chair on behalf of the board? Because if that is the case, you need to be reporting back within your reports. Otherwise, only you're getting that information. And I think as the board chair, it's really your responsibility when you meet with, especially our PACs and other educational partners like the VP PA, that you are providing a report and bringing that forward to all trustees. It is not.
So Trustee Whitaker, it was my liaison role is with the Oak Bay community of schools. I do not recall right away if I was meeting with the PAC. I don't believe I was. I believe I was meeting with parents. They may well have been working with the PAC. I'd have to double check my notes. But it was a meeting as an individual trustee who is a liaison with Oak Bay to discuss concerns with Margaret Jenkins. Next question, please.
All right, so I'd like to know, what were your discussions with the meeting with the VP, VPA about?
Those were, again, an opportunity to sit down and discuss VP, VPA desires and wishes in terms of moving forward in a collaborative way, discussions around budget, pieces, concerns for their focus or their ideas around their work, enlightening me on the work that they do in the school district. It was a good opportunity to sit down with folks from VP-VPA, and we had a good talk for, I think, about an hour. Yeah, it was good.
Excellent. I hope that the VP-VPA will know and understand that this is the summary of that information, and only you have received that information of their goals for the next year. So thank you, unless you're going to provide a fulsome report on that. Then I'd also like to know, you had a meeting with Carrie Cavers with Mothers Against Racism. Did she have any suggestions for the board?
Again, it was a discussion to talk about their hopes and concerns for the community, desired that Moms Against Racism have that, again, meeting with me as an individual trustee, not as chair of the board, to pursue anti-racism work within the Greater Victoria School District.
Okay. Well, just when we have a title as chair, and especially when you write those meetings in a chair's report, I think the people that you're meeting with are assuming that that information is coming to all of the board and that the board is considering it. So I would respectfully ask that if you are meeting, that you're very clear that you are meeting as an individual, and that that information, unless you're going to create a report, that that information is not going beyond you. Because I think that I would like to know very much what the goals are for the VP-VPA. And that it's not, doesn't seem reasonable that it would sit just with the chair. And I would also, if any trustee is speaking with the PAC and they have a concern about their school, I would like to hear about that. And I would assume that my colleagues would tell me those things. And I also would assume that those parents that you're meeting with are also thinking that when they speak to you. And so I guess that's, for me, is the important part, when parents speak to us, that we are sharing that information with each other. So thank you for that follow-up.
Excellent. Annual work plan B, it is presented.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, we added my verbal report to the agenda.
Yes, that's actually next. Thank you, Trustee Whitaker. We'll go to that in trustee reports as per the agenda that we agreed to at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you very much. Trustee Duncan, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just had a couple of questions around your report.
Sure.
I just wondered if you could give us a little bit of context around some of the concerns or discussion with the Sundance Elementary School principal, and also your meeting with MLA Rankin.
Yeah, so as liaison with the Oak Bay school family, and Sundance is actually one of the schools I had not yet had a real chance to tour through. And so Lindsay and I met. She showed me around the school. Just discussed the excitement around kindergarten planning that was coming very soon, and the anticipation of all those new influx of students engaging with the community. And I think the other piece that they were curious about was capacity of the school to handle the influx of students. In terms of meeting with MLA Rankin, he reached out to me and asked if there could be a conversation around Balco Creek, wanting to get an update just to understand what the nature of the project was, get a bit more information on that piece. And then, of course, I just made sure to thank him as well for the work with Lansdowne CSF and that project as well. And I believe that was the sum total of that meeting with Murray. Anything further, Nicole? Sorry, I want to make sure I answered your questions.
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll go to the annual work plan, February 2022. It is there for review. Any questions or discussion on that? Rob, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering if there will be coordination of purchases of pink shirts for anti-bullying. I know my own is, I don't know, must have shrunk in the wash. It's not quite fitting across all of me anymore.
I have the opposite problem, Rob. Mine is just huge and for some reason has stretched out beyond my capacity to fill it. So over to staff, if they have any thoughts around pink shirts that are the right size.
I would look to Associate Superintendent Harold Caldwell if he has an update on the pink shirts and the sizes.
We have a campaign this year that goes back to look at what we've done in the last, since I believe it's 2007 with pink shirts. And we're asking everyone in this year to recycle those pink shirts. And we're offering our schools a contest to see who in our schools can come up with the most shirts with the original pink shirt slogans on them. So we're hopeful that people can dig all of those out and fitting or not fitting, but actually having a contest within our system to really champion that work. And there have been some incredible t-shirts designed over the years, and we want to honor those. And again, go back to this idea that it's not just about the pink shirt, but about how we carry those messages with us.
Thanks, Harold. Rob, any follow-up, or was that fitting? Sorry. Well, couldn't help myself.
No, I might be able to sew a couple together, so we'll see.
Very good. I see Diane has a question. Go ahead, Diane.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm wondering if we're just going to drop the trustee painter and chair and all that stuff. I frankly appreciate being addressed as trustee McNally, and I'll continue to address you as chair. Thanks so much. I really want to speak through the chair to Mr. Caldwell, saying how much I appreciate the effort to recycle the shirts. As amazing as the new designs always are on any of the shirts that we wear to, show our adherence to some principles that we believe in and values. The amount of clothing we all know that gets sent somewhere. There are dunes of clothing in an area of Africa. We really don't need to create any more shirts. So I really appreciate this recycling effort and hope that it will be continued. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Trustee McNally. And yes, just for folks who may have not heard or were not there, in December, Trustee Hensa brought a trustee's report where she had some of her learnings from our BCSD Academy was around the deformalization of some of our work. And so she committed to calling trustees and staff and folks by first names if they were comfortable. If not comfortable, we can continue to address in a more formal way. And I do appreciate that, Trustee McNally, that you ensured that that is how you would like to be referred, and we will respect that. Thank you very much. Okay, anything else on the work plan? Seeing and hearing none, I will go to C2 trustee reports. Trustee Whitaker, you have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I just want to report I attended a fantastic workshop late last week. It was the BC Family School Engagement Workshop, collaborating to transform and improve education. And there was several of my past parent colleagues, and I believe some from VC PAC and BC Ed Access. Anyway, what I was most pleased was the many parent leaders, but was really about the presentation, the evidence presented, the resources that were provided, because they really supported my belief and advocacy within the education system that parents are an essential partner in transforming and improving education. The presentation included input from school districts 23, 48, 73, along with the UBC and the Center for Universal Education, and spotlighted the center's playbook for collaborating to transform and improve education. There was a lot of information in the session and it went by so fast, but of particular interest to me when reviewing the research was the difference in what parents and teacher believed the other believed was most important in the education system. But when the surveys were actually completed, how different that they really were, and how that was really enlightening. So, and what they were measuring was our beliefs, parents' beliefs around academic, social emotional learning, economic outcomes, and civic responsibility, and where the priorities were and how parents thought about that and how teachers thought that parents thought about that was very interesting and really offered a lot of opportunity for new awareness and conversations. So if there was ever any doubt before whether or not family and school engagement can significantly improve how systems serve their students, especially those who have been poorly served, this is the document to read. So I encourage PACs and DPACs, along with anyone else who works with parents in the system, to investigate the resource and have discussions together. I have included the link in the chat, and I will also forward this report to staff and have it included in the pack up and include the link there. But again, really great. Angela, I see you nodding your head. I'm not sure. I thought you might have been there, but it was really fabulous. And if you want to improve parent relations and communication, this is the tool, playbook, toolbox, whatever you want to call it. This is the one to look at. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Anne, and we look forward to receiving that information. Okay, going to committee reports, Education Policy and Directions Committee, the draft minutes from—
Sorry, Chair, I just have a quick question.
Sorry, my apologies. And I see it's the thing about having two screens. Sometimes you look away. Jordan, have you? And then actually Trustee McNally has her hand up as well. So Jordan, you first.
Thanks, Ryan. I just wanted to ask through you to Trustee Whitaker. I really appreciate the report. It's so great to hear about all of these things, but it's a lot to take in all of that information in the meeting. If it's possible to get your reports in advance so it can be included in the pack up, that would, really provide an opportunity to be able to ask questions and engage more with it. So I think you did say that you're going to circulate that, and I just wanted to say thank you, because it's a lot all in the moment. And I'm definitely somebody who learns better by reading.
And my apologies, Trustee Waters, is that the event occurred after deadline, so I couldn't pull it off.
Okay, Trustee McNally.
Thank you. Through the chair to Trustee Whitaker, I guess I wish I had known about that, because it sounds like a vital meeting. And so I'm wondering how I get to be part of the people who know about that particular event, if there's going to be another one.
Well, next time I see one, I will let you know. It came through the Superintendents Associations. We're sponsoring it, but I get, and I will start to forward more of those. I get lots of little notices just due to my affiliation and work with the BC School Centered Mental Health Coalition. So this actually came through there to me, but I believe it also, I think the PACs knew about it. So, but I'll forward you more stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McNally, and Trustee Whitaker. I'm sure other trustees would appreciate that info as well. So if you could send that along to everybody, that would be fantastic. Okay, so we will now go to Education Policy and Directions Committee. So we have draft minutes from the January 10th, 2022 meeting. That's for information only. We do have a recommended motion from the January 10th, 2022 meeting. It is a BA course, Sports Psychology 12. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education of School District 61 approve the new board authority authorized course. I knew I was going to get that wrong. Sports Psychology 12, and that is recommended. I do not think we need a mover and a seconder because it is recommended. But are there any questions? Seeing and hearing none. Then I will call the question on this recommended motion. All those in favor of moving this forward, please signify by raising your hands. Any opposed? None opposed. That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. We'll now go to Operations Policy and Planning Committee draft minutes from the January 17th, 2022 meeting for information only. And we have several very good, important motions coming up here. So we will go to the first one on climate action. That the Board of Education of School District number 61 direct the interim superintendent to establish an ad hoc climate action committee to assist with the further development and implementation of a district climate action plan as per bylaw 9140, and further that the committee report its recommendations to the Operations Policy and Planning Committee by May 2023, and further, that a budget of $15,000 be established to support the committee's work. And my apologies, I rushed forward in the last one without seeking some stakeholder and rights holder input. So before we do debate this motion, I do want to give our rights holders and stakeholders an opportunity to comment if they do wish. Angela Carmichael, VCPAC, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that we actually support this motion and think that it's a great addition.
Thank you, Angela. Any other rights holders or stakeholders? You can raise your hand or your Zoom hand. Seeing and hearing none, trustees, the motion is over to you. Anyone would like to speak to this motion? You may do so now. Nicole, please.
Yeah, I just actually wanted to have a brief discussion about the timeline for the production of the draft plan. At the moment, what I see in the recommended motion is May 2023. I'm just wondering if through the chair to the interim superintendent, we can get a sense of, whether it's possible to deliver that earlier than spring of 2023, and if there's been any discussions around that timetable.
Thank you, Nicole. Deputy, my goodness, interim superintendent Whitten, please.
Through the chair. Yeah, thank you for the question, Trustee Duncan. We did talk about May 2022 is a bit tight to get the committee going and create the plan. It does also align, a May deadline aligns also with the plans that we must submit through the other climate action pieces. So that's why we set it for May. We could advance it, but I'm not sure that we would advance it much earlier than spring break of next year. I think the committee has a lot of work to do to create the recommendations and create a fulsome plan, but it may be not the draft plan, it may be a finalized plan by May 2022.
Thank you, Deb. Nicole, a follow-up? And then Rob, I've got you. You can put your hand down.
Thank you, through the chair to the interim superintendent. Thank you for that, mapping out the timeline. Appreciate the alignment with some of the other timetables associated with some of the other required plans and reporting. Yeah, I mean, I think that helps to know that really the May 2022 deadline you're envisioning will be the final plan. And presumably that means that before that, there'll be opportunities for the board and stakeholders, rights holders to hear and feed into some of the work that the committee is doing, or at least to hear or see a draft plan. Is that right?
Yes, sorry, I referred to 2022. I meant 2023 for the final, but yes, as we move forward, it would be coming to you for feedback. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Rob, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Without trying to sound too excited, I just wanted to note that with election coming up in the fall this year, it would be nice if we could have something at the draft stage by the time that election and transition occurs, because it is quite possible that we'll be dealing with a new board. Well, we will be dealing with a new board, new mandate, and so we probably don't want to have something half done and then have to deal with how we're going to go with transition, and should the new board be fettered by the work of the old board, et cetera, et cetera. So just a thought.
Thanks for that, Rob. Any further discussion on this climate action motion? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor on the recommended motion, please signify. And any opposed? None opposed. That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Our first BCSTA AGM motion recommended that the Board of Education of School District number 61 bring forward a motion to the BC School Trustees Association Annual General Meeting, asking the BCSTA to advocate for the removal of BC Hydro's 100 kilowatt net metering cap by advocating directly to BC Hydro and the BC Utilities Commission, the Premier of BC, Minister of Education, Minister of Finance, and Minister of Environment and Clean BC. Before we jump into debate, stakeholders and rights holders, any comments or pieces you would like the board to take into consideration? Angela Carmichael, BC PAC.
Thank you. We also support this motion. I think we need to do everything within our power to make sure that our climate action plan is taking effect. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Angela. Any further, I'm just going to scroll here. Any other comments or questions from stakeholders or rights holders? I see Rob. Okay, none. Trustees, it is over to you for discussion. Rob had his hand up first, so I will go to Rob and then Nicole.
Yeah, sorry, my apologies, Chair, I was jumping the gun there. No, and this is intended only as a supportive way that the optional references, I think, were drawn from the other BCSTA motion and might need to be reviewed before this goes forward.
Thanks for the note, Rob. Make sure to have a look at that before submission. Nicole, anything from you?
I was just going to point out that the same thing as Trustee Rob Painter. Yeah, just needs to be amended so that it's not the same resources as the next motion for the BCST. But otherwise, yeah, no, it's great. Glad to see it. And I think it complements the other work we're doing. So yeah, I definitely support it. Thanks.
Appreciate the many eyes on this work. Jordan, this is your motion. Would love to hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I apologize for the typo of including those. There weren't any additional references for this one, just FYI. So those just need to be deleted before it moves forward to BCSTA. Thanks all for considering the motion.
Thank you, Jordan. Nicole, go ahead, because you didn't actually speak for or against. It was more or less a point. So we'll be flexible. Go ahead.
I was actually just going to offer to provide some background materials that might complement it. But I don't know if we can do that on an informal basis or if we would have needed those for tonight.
I don't know. Jordan, would you be, I think it's fine to receive some optional references. Jordan, are you okay with that? I don't know. Sorry. It's your motion and your submission.
Yeah, no, I'm totally open to that. I mean, I understand from BCSDA and the Ledge Committee that they're not looking for a lot in that slot, but certainly any trustees who want something included there should just forward that along to the chair, and assuming the motion passes, I think that's great.
Yeah, I can say as chair of BCSDA's Ledge Committee, some do go into those optional references pretty thick. So it's never a bad idea to include them if you have them. So Nicole, I think that's fantastic. If you can provide those to Jordan, I think that's great. Thank you for the offer.
Okay.
Any further debate or discussion on this motion? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of the first BCSTA AGM motion, please signify. And those opposed? None opposed. That is unanimous. Thank you. BCSTA AGM motion 2. Trustees, are you okay waiving reading of this? It's a little bit longer. You probably don't want to hear me all night. Okay, perfect. We will have stakeholders or rights holders who may wish to speak to this BCSTA AGM motion, the second one for the evening. Just scrolling, seeing none. Trustees, I turn the motion over to you for discussion and debate on this second BCSTA AGM motion. Rob, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. And this is just a reflection of the comments I had at ops, is recognizing that this was coming from municipalities who employ engineers for designing roads and planning uses for traffic flow, et cetera. I just think they're in a better position to advocate directly for this. And so I guess this is an amendment, proposed amendment, that the second last paragraph, it's on the bottom of it starts on the bottom of 303. The BCSDA should resolve to ask the province of BC of British Columbia. And I would just say to amend the Motor Vehicle Act consistent with the safe passing distance for all road users motion passed at UBCM.
Rob, to help us along, can you tell us where, just help us with pages? Some of us haven't quite scrolled down that far.
Yep. So it starts at the bottom of page 303.
Right.
And then carries on to 304. And it talks specifically about, 1 meter of space on roads with posted speeds of 50K or less, 1.5 in excess of 50K, that sort of thing.
Okay, and then, sorry, where did you want to amend?
I just wanted to amend, leave the BCSTA should resolve to ask the province of British Columbia to amend the Motor Vehicle Act and then remove the rest and insert instead consistent with the safe passing distance for all road users motion passed at UBCM or 2021 UBCM.
And so you're just so we're all clear, your amendment would strike everything after the Motor Vehicle Act and then just ask this to be consistent with the UBCM motion. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I appreciate it's it may feel like a bit of foolishness because the UBCM motion gets specifically into the 1 meter of space and 1.5 meters. My rationale for doing it is that whereas UBCM has the trained specialists to actually be able to speak to these issues and provide a rationale for spacing, et cetera, that's not within the capacity of of school boards. So in as much as I'm very much in support of this, very much in support of improving safety for all users, that I just think it's more within our bailiwick simply to say, we too endorse the UBCM motion and recommend it going forward.
Sure, thanks, Rob. I'm just going to see if we've got a seconder for that amendment to the rationale. So let's just remind people that that's not actually the motion of the resolution, it's the rationale that's being amended.
Oh, sorry. Okay, actually, it is, my apologies. It is the same paragraph language as the motion itself, so it would be an amendment of the motion. That's what I intended. My apologies.
Okay, so just so we're clear, you want to amend the motion,
yes,
to remove everything after Motor Vehicle Act,
right?
And this is paraphrasing, but essentially to say consistent with the resolution passed at UBCM around safe passing distances. Is that accurate, Rob?
Yeah, that's accurate.
Okay.
Can I suggest an easier amendment?
Yes, please, Elaine.
That the BCSDA requests that the province of BC support the UBCM's motion to amend the Motor Vehicle Act, and then the whole rest of the motion carries on. So we're not saying, but you're supporting everything that's in the motion. You're just asking to support the UBCM's motion to that effect. Just a suggestion.
Yep. And thank you very much, Trustee Leonard and Chair. I think that's a much more elegant solution. What Trustee Leonard said.
Okay, so Rob, it wasn't seconded, so we're okay. If you're fine, we can go to Trustee Leonard's recommended wording. Can I have a seconder for Trustee Leonard's recommended wording? Trustee Whitaker, thank you very much. Any discussion on that recommended change of wording to the motion, which will go to BCSTA? Nicole, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank my colleagues, both Trustee Rob Painter and Trustee Leonard, for suggesting it. It was part of the rub for me. You know, I wanted to support this because I think it's important that we come out and sort of advocate for safer roadways, but also appreciating it's not our mandate, strictly speaking. So I think this is an eloquent, as you put it, solution. And thank you both.
Very good, thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing and hearing none, we'll call for a vote on the amendment. All those in favor to amending the motion to include that new piece from Trustee Leonard. All those in favor? Any opposed? And sorry, Jordan, I didn't catch you there. I think you froze up on me. Were you opposed or in favor?
I voted in favor.
In favor, perfect, thank you. Okay, we now have the amended motion in front of us. All those in favor of the amended motion? And any opposed? None opposed, that passes. Thank you very much, everybody. Now just bear with me as I jump back up to the top here. Okay, so we'll now go to district leadership team reports. E1, interim superintendent's report. Interim Superintendent Whitten, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Painter. Just bring your attention to my report, which is on 305 and 306 of the packet. I think if we scroll down to the bottom now, those are the important messages that I would like to share and express gratitude. Incredible work for the continuity of learning plans and the functional closure plans staff did, teachers, EAs, and VP, VPA, as well as the conversations we had with the rights holders and the partners in the board as we returned from winter holiday. Can't say enough about our facilities team, as well as our snow alert team that was out on the roads at 5 a.m. assessing that snow that came down. And also we have a student representative that's working through regulation 5131.4 and looking at wording, and has brought in all of the student reps or the representative advisory council to look at that regulation and give student voice to that. And lastly, to purchasing department for sourcing the N95 masks for staff. So lots of work that has gone on in this month, and really want to express gratitude and appreciation for everyone coming together.
Thank you very much, Interim Superintendent Whitten, for that report. We have a motion in front of us that the Board of Education of School District 61 receive the interim superintendent's report as presented. Can I have a motion to receive, please? Moved by Tom, seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing no discussion, I'll call the question on receipt of the report. All those in favor? Any opposed? And none opposed. That is unanimous. Trustee questions. Trustees, any questions for the interim superintendent? Trustee Whitaker.
Thank you. So now that we've passed the climate action motion, I wanted to, through the chair to the interim superintendent, last spring at great effort by myself, family, and a lot of students, we passed a motion to create a working group to create a waste policy for the district. And I'm just looking to get some follow-up or feedback as to what are we going to do with that? And are we going to roll that into Sean Powell's work, or are we going to create that committee, or is there any thoughts towards that?
Through the chair, yes, we will bring that forward into the climate action plan. I think there were lots of good motions that came out in the past that we need to be aware of and make sure that we're bringing forward. Student voice into this plan is important. And as we look at different ways to support climate, I want to make sure that previous motions are enveloped, but also that their voice of students now are also included. So we will bring those items forward to the first meeting and look at the motions that have come through the past 2.5 years, and then see where for students where their interests lie in moving these forward or creating new ones.
Okay, so just because there are motions approved by the board, I absolutely value the students' input, but we'll need to follow proper process. It's not up to the students to decide whether or not we're going to do that, because we have a motion of the board. But I would be happy to see these motions that are on record for the board to follow through with something, to bring them forward and either rescind them or redirect them. Just can we please follow up and close the proper loops on those rather than they just kind of float there? Thank you.
Thank you, interim superintendent and trustee Whitaker. I have every confidence that the interim superintendent will follow our process as laid out. I have no doubt about that at all. Any other questions or comments from trustees? Nicole, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you to both the interim superintendent and to trustee Whitaker for just bringing us back to closing those loops. I was actually just wondering if we could hear a little bit of sort of background context. I'm interested in some of the work that the interim superintendent referred to around substance use, and really exciting to hear that students are being directly invited to participate in our regulations. So I wondered if you could provide a little bit more detail to us.
Sure. I met with Isabella 2 weeks ago, I think, just to discuss her interest in this regulation. And then she presented actually at the last student representative meeting. So she brought forward the regulation. She's currently working with Jennifer Chambers as well as a group. Tom, Mr. Arts is on it, and Pam Halverson. And so they're looking at the wording. And then the student representatives, when we met 2 weeks ago, discussed their thoughts on the regulation. So she's combining the information she received from that meeting, as well as conversations she's having at the school she attends, and bringing those back to the smaller working group to again look at making it student relevant. And today it is a older motion. It was brought to my attention. It was a regulation 1992. So we have a little bit of work to do on that.
Thank you, and look forward to hearing more about that work.
Very good. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. And thank you, interim superintendent Whitten. We'll now go to E2, Secretary Treasurer's report, a monthly report. Kim, over to you.
Sure. So starting on page 308 is my report. Just a quick budget update. The Budget Advisory Committee met for the third time on January 18th, and we had 23 members attend, which was a great turnout. We had an amazing presentation from all of our infrastructure departments as per the committee's work plan. So really want to give a shout out to facilities and finance and HR and information technology for learning. Gave the committee a great foundation of understanding around the infrastructure departments in the district. And you can find that presentation on the website. Cedar Hill Middle School is moving along in terms of the architects starting to take in all the input from staff that they've received and from facility staff to start to develop the floor plan for the school. So far, if you'd like to see the overall site plan, you can go to the website and see that. Of particular interest to the board may be the childcare information session follow-up. There is a self-paced online feedback form around moving childcare to the Ministry of Education. So it may be something the board wants to consider providing some input for, and that closes on February 15th. The ministry is supplying rapid antigen test kits for staff. So 200,000 are being distributed to all school districts in the province, and we anxiously await ours for distribution to staff if they so choose to use them. And just a reminder, our draft surplus policy, the feedback period on the website has closed, but just to remind you, if you do have any feedback, that the drafts are there for your information, and we have received no feedback to date. So, and the rest are just some meetings that I've held that I've attended this month. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim. Trustees, we have a recommended motion that the Board of Education of School District 61 receive the Secretary Treasurer's report as presented. Moved by Tom, seconded by Elaine. Any discussion on receipt of the Secretary Treasurer's report? Seeing and hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And any opposed? None opposed. We'll now go into B2002, 2022 to 2023 budget update terms of reference. Before we go into the motion, Kim will probably want to guide us into this. So Kim, over to you.
Sure. So when the Budget Advisory Committee first met, the first thing we talked about was our draft terms of reference. That was refined over 3 meetings, with the last piece of the puzzle being added at the January 18th Budget Advisory Committee meeting. And special thanks to Dr. Shelley Nemi and her team from the Indigenous Education Department. It was important for the committee to have some reference and definition and touchstone for cultural safety. And so that's been added as Appendix A. And the committee is happy with this terms of reference. And so we're bringing it to the board for approval tonight.
Thank you, Kim. We have a recommended motion that the Board of Education of School District number 61 approve the 2022-2023 Budget Advisory Ad Hoc Committee terms of reference as presented. Can I have a motion to approve? Moved by Elaine, seconded by Tom. Trustees, over to you for discussion. Trustee Whitaker, and then I think I saw Trustee Duncan as well. Trustee Whitaker, you first.
Thank you. So through the chair to the Secretary Treasurer, thank you for that introduction, because for me, when I was reading this, I couldn't figure out where the change was from the last meeting to this one. So I just want to clarify that the change is the addition of Appendix A.
Yes.
But there's no other changes in the other part.
The original or the main document, I believe, under cultural safety says the Appendix A, I think.
Okay. Thank you. I was trying to find the red lines and I don't know what changed. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Trustee Whitaker. Nicole, I thought I saw your hand up, but maybe I'm seeing things.
I just wanted to flag some of the resources. So in addition to the definition, there is a list of resources that, beyond our committee's work, I highly recommend. I'm starting to read through myself and highly recommend to my colleagues and to everyone around the table. And thank you so much to Dr. Nemi and the team for putting this together. And I hope you take the time to have a read.
Yes, indeed. Very good. Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of the terms of reference for the Budget Advisory Ad Hoc Committee? And any opposed? None opposed. Thank you. We'll now go to, none opposed, it passes unanimously. So we'll now go to C, appointment of election official. Recommended motion is there. Kim, you can probably lead us into this one, but I think everyone at the table knows what this is about. So
right.
Go ahead.
I think it's fairly self-evident. We do have a trustee election coming up this fall, and there's quite a bit of legwork to be done ahead of time. And so we want to secure a chief elections officer as soon as we can. And I believe Joan Axford also served in this capacity during the last election as well.
All right, we have a motion recommended that the Board of Education of School District 61 appoint Joan Axford as Chief Election Officer to administer and conduct the school trustee election on October 15th, 2022. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Elaine, seconded by Jordan. Trustees, over to you. Any discussion? Trustee Whitaker.
Thank you. And thank you for this. And having worked with Joan for many years, she's very highly qualified. But my question is around process. How is it that Joan is chosen? Like, do we put a call out? Do we look for other people, or are we just doing because Joan did it last year and we have a relationship with her? I'm just, I guess, looking for the process of how this individual is hired.
Yeah, I would say the main association or the main reason chosen was the fact that she did it the last time. Did a good job for a reasonable price. I'm not sure it's at a financial threshold where we would need to put it out for an RFP or anything like that. I think the price is about $9,000. And so that was basically the reason. They're generally kind of hard to find with the expertise that we need. And we know that Joan's done it before and did a good job. So.
Thank you, Kim. Any further comments or questions or further debate? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of appointing Joan Axford as the Chief Election Officer for our October 15th, 2022 election? Any opposed? None opposed. Abstentions? And Trustee Whitaker has abstained. The balance in favor. Thank you, everybody. Okay, D, Lansdowne Middle School South Campus. So for those watching with these bylaw readings, they are 3 readings. What we do is in order to go through all 3 readings in one night, we typically ask for trustees to approve a third, all 3 readings in one night. We are not doing that here. We are going through the first 2 readings tonight, and then Kim, I believe we have a proposed date for the third bylaw reading, but I'm sorry, maybe I'm missing that. Can you remind me?
The third bylaw reading is scheduled for February 28th.
Right, thank you. Okay, so trustees, there is a long motion here. Can we waive reading so we can go into discussion? Any objection to that? No. Okay. Before we go into debate, yes, Winona, I was coming to you. Before we go into debate, I want to make sure we give our stakeholders and rights holders an opportunity to present us with their perspective on this. And I see Winona Waldron, GVTA, is up first. Winona, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. We have concerns with the selling of school district property, not just in this instance, but in any instance. And I think we've heard tonight from folks around Balco Creek and also around the hospice, and certainly my experience with the folks at hospice and the work there is that they're incredible, but school district property doesn't come back. And we have a growing district and an important resource here. And I think we have grave concerns with the selling off of our resources because we can't recover that land. The school district isn't going to be able to buy a new piece of property, and not one as special as this. So the GVTA does oppose the sale of the section of Lansdowne. Thank you.
Thank you, Winona. Angela Carmichael, VCPAC.
Thank you, Ryan. So let's see. I've gotten a lot of correspondence from parents regarding this, as you can imagine, letter or email that I've gotten that is in favor of this land sale. If anything, it feels a bit like a slap in the face to parents who've been consistently asking for better consultation when selling off land. And, you know, the fact that it says disposal of land, it says a lot to us, because that's what you're doing, is you're disposing of it, and it's not for educational purposes. So at the January 17th ops meeting, I posed a question: land sale aside, the development of a known watershed would go directly against our climate action emergency that we declared. And so our concern is that you're not following your own bylaws, but that we're not respecting the wishes of students and parents. We're opposed to the land sale on so many levels. Mostly because it is a known watershed, and I have major respect for the Victoria Hospice, as I know we all do. However, the presentation that was given did not alleviate my fears that this watershed would be kept intact, especially knowing that 30,000 chum salmon eggs were recently put there. So as for BC PAC, we don't get to meet as often as we'd like, and so we meet tomorrow. And so I have to almost demand that you do not move forward with this motion until I have had an opportunity to speak to my membership, which is not until tomorrow. So if you really want to listen to parents and you really care about what's best for our students, you will immediately cease and desist until I can speak to my membership tomorrow. And I thank you.
Thanks, Angela. And any other rights holders or stakeholders want to speak on this? Seeing and hearing none, before we move debate, because once we get into debate, we can only speak once. I want to make sure that any trustees who have questions they want to ask are able to do that outside of formal debate once we've moved the motions. So do trustees have questions they would like to ask of staff or with regards to this motion? Elaine, and then I've got Nicole and trustee Whitaker. Elaine, go ahead.
Thank you. I was interested to see the presentation by Kevin at the beginning of the meeting, and he indicated that he's met with Saanich and met with the different stakeholders in the equation. I just wanted to ask the Secretary Treasurer how many times she and or staff have met with the different people in the mix, i.e. CRD, Balco Creek, Saanich, just to sort of give us an idea of how many times and how many discussions have taken place since November-ish. If I could get that, that'd be great. Thanks.
Thanks, Elaine. Kim, over to you.
Sure. In addition to the initial consultation public meeting that we held on December 12th, we met with representatives from the Balco Creek Initiative on site at Lansdowne Middle School South Campus in the library. I believe 4 trustees were there, along with staff and board members from Vic Hospice, as well as CRD and District of Saanich, along with some of the consultants and environmental engineers, planners from Saanich. We received a presentation from Balco Creek Initiative, and then we as a group walked the portion of the creek over the bridge and talked about the different ways that informally with each other in my conversations were the different ways that perhaps the creek could meander. And then on January 7th, Chuck Morris, our Director of Facilities, and Aaron Foster from Facilities and I met with Vic Hospice, as well as District of Saanich employees and Balco Creek Initiative representatives. And Vic Hospice presented a conceptual plan, which they've shared also with you tonight, around a plan that could meet the needs of the blueprint, somewhere between the preferred option and the alternative option, by meandering the creek a different way, and to offer up learning opportunities as well as greenways and things like that, as presented earlier tonight. And so those are the 2 meetings that we've held, or that I've attended as a staff member of School District 61.
Thank you, Kim. I think I said Nicole next, and then trustee Whitaker. Nicole, over to you, and then Jordan. I got you, Jordan.
Yeah, I think I don't so much have a question at this stage. I think I'd like to move to sort of table the consideration of the bylaw readings until a time when the board can consider the presentation that we've received tonight from Mr. Harder to do with the conceptual design plan. At this stage, I certainly don't feel prepared to understand properly the extent to which that proposed design or conceptual design addresses the obligations under the framework and the blueprint, or to really assess properly the impacts and the risks. So I don't know if it's best to move a motion to table now, or if Chair, through you to our colleagues, it would be best to allow trustees to ask questions and points of clarification.
Nicole, you're certainly welcome to move a motion. I think the right motion would be motion to refer. If you wanted to refer to a specific time, that might be more get you where you want if you had an idea, or you can table indefinitely as well. I mean, there's lots of options there, but that's well within your purview. I would maybe encourage, before we entertain that we perhaps want to hear from our colleagues around the table first, but it's totally up to you.
No, I'm happy to do that. I wanted to hear what folks thought, including you, Chair, about how to proceed, but that's certainly where I'm going. So, yeah, I'm happy to take that suggestion and to let you go through the rest of our colleagues with questions.
Thank you for that. I'm going to go to trustee Whitaker, and then I've got Jordan, Tom, and Rob. So trustee Whitaker, you're first, and then Elaine again.
Chair, trustee Leonard was ahead of me.
Yeah, Trustee Whitaker, go ahead.
Okay, well, now having heard Trustee Duncan, I kind of sort of agree with her. When I look at the slide presentation, thank you, whoever sent that to me. I mean, I don't know what questions I have on slide 4 and 5. I like that they are making an effort to solve these problems, but I just don't think, without talking to the District of Saanich or further information, like I want to know what the infrastructure is under there. I mean, it's great to do this design, but the previous meetings, I've heard that this can't be moved in that way because of infrastructure that's underneath the field. So I don't know. I'll leave it at that. This is a presentation that we heard verbally, and I've had no opportunities to ask the person who has presented this to me any questions as well. So.
Thank you, Trustee Whitaker. Now, next, I believe I have Jordan and then Tom. So Jordan, go ahead. And Diane, I've got you. You're on my list.
Thanks, Ryan. We're just asking questions at this stage, yeah?
Yeah, that's correct. We've not gone into debate or anything.
Okay, so I guess this is through you, Chair, to the Secretary Treasurer. I'm wondering if Hospice has met with Saanich to discuss its proposal and the proposed design, because land use really does follow the municipality. And then I'm also wondering if the plan that they're bringing forward, does it meet any of the needs or goals of the blueprint? Because I'm seeing that Hospice is trying to make a very strong case that they want to really, carry on that work in the blueprint. So I'm just trying to understand what discussions have happened around that. I don't know if the Secretary Treasurer can fill us in.
Yeah, I can't speak for Vic Hospice on how many times they've met with the District of Saanich. I know they have met once after January 7th, and that Saanich in general is supportive of the plan. And it is my understanding that there are two options in the blueprint. There is the preferred and there is an alternate. And it's my understanding that the Vic Hospice conceptual design presented fits somewhere between those two options on a scale of in between preferred and the alternate option.
Okay, can I ask a follow-up? Well, I guess not really a follow-up. It's another question, or would you like me to go to the back of the list?
No, go ahead. We'll do it. Yeah, thanks, Jordan.
I'm just wondering, since the board signed on to, well, we didn't sign on, but since we endorsed the blueprint, what efforts have been made at Lansdowne South to improve the creek? Like, has work taken place on that property at all?
So we could, I think for the trustees that went on the walkabout on December 12th, I think we could see that the creek was in a fairly troubled state of repair. We have not, and maybe the Director of Operation or Facilities, Chuck Morris, also wants to comment, but to my knowledge, we have not done any upgrading of the creek at this time. So a partner may be a way to leverage some development money to upgrade the creek. But Chuck, I'm not sure. Do you know if we've spent any funds or efforts on the creek in terms of improving it since 2018?
Through the chair, I arrived here in 2018, August, and we have done nothing to Balco Creek aside from having Aaron attend many meetings with Balco Creek people, but there's no money spent on improvement of the creek.
As prior to this discussion, has there been any, like, was there money set aside? Were any plans made? None. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Tom, you are next. And then Trustee Whitaker, I'll get a second round of questions. And Trustee Whitaker, I'll come back to you. Tom, you're next.
Thank you. I was just wondering if it was possible for the school district to commit the area at the Lansdowne South Field for a dry pond or flood abatement instead of the proposed disposal area. And if I could ask that through the Secretary Treasurer.
Kim?
I think I'll pass that on to Chuck Morris.
Through the chair, yes, the Lansdowne North, there could be some sort of remediation pond there. Anything is possible along that line. That just, we'd have to investigate it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to first time speakers. So Rob, I've got you, and then Diane, and then Angie. Sorry, you know what, Diane? I actually had you first. I'm sorry. Trustee McNally, you're first. Then I'll go to Rob. Go ahead, Trustee McNally, with my apologies.
Thank you. So my question is procedural. It sounded to me as if we had a motion, or at least a suggestion of a motion on the floor from Trustee Duncan to postpone this motion to another time. And I just want to express my support for that.
Sure. There is no,
So
sorry,
where are we
Trustee
with that?
McNally. Sorry, there is no motion on the floor at this point. So
Okay.
we're just doing trustee questions right now. Trustee Duncan did
Thank
recommend
you.
the possibility of a motion, but she's holding it
Yeah.
back until we all ask.
All our questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. Rob, and then Angie, and then we'll circle back.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm not sure if this can be forwarded through you to the Secretary Treasurer and possibly onto Mr. Harder. I thought I heard in one of the earlier presentations tonight that as part of the conceptual planning, there had been some flood mapping undertaken. And if that is accurate, I would appreciate seeing that so that I can compare it with what the flood mapping in the blueprint indicated, just so I can get a sense of the implications there.
Kim, I'm not sure if you can actually, I mean, maybe you can respond to that. I don't know.
I could certainly ask Vic Hospice. I'm not in possession of that documentation myself.
Okay. Well, we've still got reading opportunities ahead of us, and for more information to come through. So I think we can hopefully get that info. Rob, was there a follow up, or was that?
No, that's everything. Thank you.
Okay. Angie, then our first round through trustees is done, and we'll go a second.
Thanks. I just have a question through you, Ryan, to Kim. We've been hearing a lot about the ministerial purchase and sale, the ministerial order about the purchase and sale. And I'm just wondering where we stand legally with that, if we'd be outside of the order if this were to happen. Thanks.
Thanks. Kim, over to you.
Yes. So I think you're referring to some of the items that Friends of Balco Creek and Camosun Community Association set out in their letter of January 2022. So if we look at the ministerial order, it is the governing document, and the words "must approve of disposal before SD61 enters into an agreement to sell" do not appear in the order. The order does not prohibit entering into a sale agreement conditional on the minister's approval, and that is the kind of sale agreement that we have signed into. There's no provision in the order that the minister's approval is not required for legal commitments that were placed prior to September 3rd, 2008. And unfortunately, parts of the ministry's Q&A document or guidelines are staff's interpretation and don't accurately reflect the actual words of the order, and therefore we may want to follow up with the ministry to ask them to clarify or make that more clear for the public when they are researching this type of advocacy.
Thanks. Angie, was that sufficient?
Yes, thank you. That clears it up for me. Thanks.
Very good. Okay, second round, I have Elaine and then Trustee Whitaker.
Thanks. What all I was going to say was in regards to the motion, a possible motion to table, was the reason we do 2 readings at one time and not do 3 readings is to give us another month to then gather whatever other information we need before we make a final decision, which would be now February 28th. So my suggestion is if trustees have questions or presentations that they want to happen again in more detail, that they request them for the ops meeting, because that would give you another opportunity to have these discussions or to answer questions that are still out there. But that's the reason you don't defer this, or you could, I mean, you shouldn't defer this. And you have the 2 readings tonight, then you have another month before it's final, because nothing is final after 2 readings. We are still waiting for the 3rd reading.
Thanks. Thank you for that, Elaine. Trustee Whitaker.
Thank you. The previous question was already asked, how much was put into Balco Creek along this section. Can we get some numbers as to how much was invested into Balco Creek along Oak Bay High, and how much of that came from the school district? I think there has been lots of work done along the creek, and a lot of it has benefited our school. And I think, Secretary Treasurer can prove me wrong, but I don't believe we actually paid for any of that. So I'm just curious for that clarification and where it came from.
Sure. My understanding is that through grant writing in partnership with the Creek Partners, grant revenue was raised for the Oak Bay improvements along Balco Creek. The school district's contribution, I believe, leveraged the design and consultants of the new Oak Bay Secondary School. And so our contribution was some of the consultants' fees in terms of, I believe, architecture, engineering, et cetera. But perhaps Chuck Morris or Marnie, if she's still with us, are able to verify that if they were here.
Through the chair, I wasn't here, so I'd have to do some research.
And Marnie, if you have anything, that's great. If not, we can come back to this. We have time to find those answers. But Marnie, if you want to speak, I can give you a minute. Actually, I'm not yeah, she's still here. Okay, so Trustee Whitaker, can we bring that and come back with some info for you? Would that be okay?
Yeah, I'm sure somebody will, if staff doesn't, somebody else will tell us.
We've got the info, I'm sure. Okay, any other questions? I'm sorry, Nicole, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wondered whether all of the parties to the agreement around the creek, the framework, the blueprint, and so on have been have had the opportunity to look at the proposed design that we saw tonight in Mr. Hart's presentation.
On January 7th, District of Saanich employees, Balco Creek Initiative representatives, including some from CRD, Vic Hospice, and School District 61 staff saw the conceptual drawing. I'm not sure if the other parties have seen it, but those are the ones that were presented on January 7th.
Thank you. Nicole, follow up? No, you're okay? Okay. Trustee McNally. Oh, no, you're just resting your head in your hands. That's fine. Okay. So now all those questions are done. We can move into first reading. Can I have a motion, please, to put first reading on the floor?
Chair, actually, I'd like to move.
We have to actually move the motion first before we refer it.
Of course.
Sorry, Elaine and then Tom, second, and now Nicole.
No, I'd like to just move and refer. If refer is the right way to do it, then let's do that. Refer that to the board meeting in February. And again, if I may, after we can hopefully get a second to motivate.
Sure. So let's wait for a seconder, and you have one. So Nicole, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just keep it brief. I mean, I appreciate my colleague trustee Leonard's comments around, you know, the safety of having a third reading in February, because I assume will not, as a board, unanimously agree to have all 3 readings this evening. However, I think that there's some complexities to this particular situation, and quite a large number of unanswered questions, certainly in my view. And I would much rather have the opportunity to get those answers and seek that clarity and understand the issues before we entertain any readings of the bylaws. I don't want us to lose opportunities of first and second reading to be fully informed before entering into debate. I think that's a real lost opportunity for us as a board to engage in a fully informed debate on first and second reading. So that is why I'm moving it.
Thank you, Rob. You seconded, so I'll give you an opportunity to motivate as well, please. And then I'll go to Jordan.
No, thank you, Chair. I would, in general, agree with the statements of Trustee Duncan. I was quite interested in the presentation from Victoria Hospice, and I think that there is, you know, some worthwhile content for consideration. But having said that, as I have admitted, am a bit of a cud chewer. I like to think about things, and so I personally would like to have all the information nailed down before we start moving forward with the bylaw. So that's my motivation.
Thank you, Rob. Jordan, you're next.
Thank you. I'm curious as to what information or what questions remain unanswered, just so I can fully understand what it is that we're looking to collect, because I did see all the emails come out this weekend around what information do you need, and I did not see answers to that. So I'm just trying to understand what would happen between now and February that would put you in a better position. Just given the months that we've already put into this and all the correspondence and discussion, and the fact that we're, you know, anything 2 readings, then you're gonna have another month. So what information are you looking for in order to make a decision?
Thank you, Jordan. I'm happy to put that question to the mover or the seconder if either want to answer. You don't have to, but I'm happy to put it to either of you if you'd like. Nicole, as the mover, did you want to provide some insight?
Yeah, no, sure. I think the extent to which that helps my colleagues during our consideration, I'm happy to provide that context. From my perspective, I think that it's pretty clear that there are outstanding issues to consider, and it's reflected in the myriad of correspondence, the hundreds of emails and letters that we've received as a board. But I also know that when we delayed our consideration of the bylaw the first time, it was on the basis that we were going to go back as parties to the proposal to see if we could, hash out some kind of a win-win-win scenario whereby everybody, comes out of this, feeling like we've got a positive way forward that really addresses all of the potential concerns here. And at this stage, having just received a presentation from Mr. Harter tonight that speaks directly to some of the concerns that we've heard during the consultation, I think it really is incumbent on us to take the time to properly get those answers and consider the impacts and the risks, and really understand whether the proposed design truly addresses the obligations within the framework agreement and the blueprint. And I think the other aspect that I'm sure is not lost on my colleagues is that one of our stakeholders around the table, namely VC PAC, has made it pretty clear that they would like an opportunity to discuss with their members the proposal and to provide feedback to us as a board. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. Hopefully that context helps.
Thank you, Nicole. Jordan, I noticed you didn't actually get to motivate, so I'm happy to go to you so you can give your, you can debate if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear any outstanding information there. I didn't hear any questions, so I'm not sure like what action is expected to be taken. So I can't support the motion because I don't see how we're going to, like, what, I don't understand what information we want and how we're going to get it. So I can't support the motion to delay at this time. I appreciate VC PAC's position. I look forward to hearing what they bring back to us next month.
Thank you, Jordan. I've got Trustee McNally and then Trustee Whitaker. Trustee McNally, go ahead, please.
You know, sometimes when, perhaps it's my mind, but sometimes when complex information comes forward over time or tonight, I don't know which information I don't know until I look deeper into the issue and deeper into the provided documentation. So I would personally need more time to really solidify my knowledge of the many variables involved in this decision. As well, an outstanding question for me is what happened to hospice's exploration of a site in View Royal when the new CEO or the new official came on board 2 or 3 years ago. He said he had no knowledge of that, and I really expect a corporate body to have some history as to why or why not they didn't explore further that View Royal location, which is close to VGH as well. We had no reasons given to us why the CNIB building right across the street was not going to be suitable. It seemed to me to be kind of a throwaway answer. We didn't look, or it's not suitable. That's not good enough for me. This is a big issue for the community. It's a big issue for the environment. And we need more time to carefully consider this. So I support the motion to postpone.
Thank you, Trustee McNally. Trustee Whitaker?
Thank you.
To refer to next month.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's really important that it's understood that this present 6-slide presentation is a change from what was being discussed at the previous meeting. It has been presented to us now. If you want to know some of my questions, I'd like to know who's paying for that outdoor classroom? What is the positioning of this bike and pedestrian path? Where is the actual line? Would that be on our property, on their property? What is the concerns that were previously raised by the District of Saanich about moving the Balco Creek because of infrastructure that has already been placed under the field that would cost millions of dollars to move? This parking and drop-off area, if this is where it's going to be flooded, is that going to be a pervious or a non-pervious surface? So I think that there are a lot of questions, and you know what, we can move forward and vote on this, but I will not consider these 6 slides in my decision. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Rob, I thought I saw your hand up and you have not participated in the formal debate yet, so I'm happy to hear your perspective.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, good timing following up on Trustee Whitaker. Actually mentioned a number of additional points from the presentation tonight that that I didn't have forefront in my mind, but there is some elements of worthwhile consideration. If the alignment of the creek is altered as suggested, is the learning center then on hospice property, and what are the implications there as far as access? I heard about potential for some increased level of flooding, marginal however, but increased level of flooding onto the Richmond school site. And that causes me some concern. The last thing we want are soggy fields and or the possibility of impacts to the school itself. That's why I'm asking for the mapping that I understood was part of the conceptual design. Yes, I think it concerns me when we go forward partway towards a decision, thereby signaling our intentions. And quite honestly, for me, kind of undermining the perspective that we are impartial and open to all input going forward. It concerns me that myself personally, I'm only speaking for myself, I feel like I'm getting boxed into a corner where it's tougher and tougher to look at alternatives simply because people have invested money or we've gone so far down a path. And so in the absence of outstanding information, I find it very difficult to be in a position to make a decision and move one step further down the road. So thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Anyone who we haven't heard from on the motion to refer? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question. All of those in favor of referring first and essentially second reading to our February board meeting. So if you are in favor of referring to February, please signify. And if you are opposed, please signify. And the motion to refer is defeated. So we will now go back to first reading. Is there any debate on first reading? Trustee Whitaker, please.
I just want to clarify, are we debating the motion now?
Yes, we are.
Excellent. So as I said, I'm not going to consider the 6 slides because I haven't had the opportunity to review these. There might be some really great ideas in there that are contrary to my considerations to date, but at this point, I don't believe that this land is surplus to educational needs of our students. In fact, I think it's vital. I think that this particular property would serve Lansdowne, Oaklands, Victor, Sundance, Oak Bay, Monterey, George J, as well as others who wanted to make the effort to actually carpool farther to have learning opportunities in that area. We've also had note of the rapid decrease in green space. And when I think about the kids playing and the number of areas in that area, this would be vital. I grew up with a creek and a stream right beside my school, and it was everything for the entire school. I think anybody from Departure Bay knows Woodstream Park and spent many days there, and it shaped my youth. I was pleased to take my daughter back there and show her where I grew up and talk about memories. I also note that just recently we've all received our assessments, and I don't live that far from that property, and I have minuscule amount of property in comparison, and my property is worth $1 million. So I struggle when I see 2.5 being the price that we're getting. I'm not sure that that is a good use of our assets when we are seeing rates in this area increasing to the amount of, anywhere between 17 and 22% on a yearly basis. So I'm concerned about that. I think that we've heard from our partners, the GVTA, that as well. When land is gone, it's gone, and there are many other opportunities for it. I'm also really challenged. We've heard that in the past, this property has come up and it has been turned down for development by the District of Saanich. I know that the hospice has been, and the school district has been talking to the staff at the District of Saanich, but I'm really hard pressed to believe that the Council of Saanich will pass this based on the amount of pressure I think that they are going to get, and at the time, and of the people that are sitting on that board. I think that this will be turned down, and it's going to continue to go back and forth. And just cost money until nobody is building on that, which will then result in us having a piece of property with a creek that's not being maintained and becoming an eyesore and is just a problem for us. Or it'll be sold to somebody else and we'll have no control over who that is, and we'll all be wishing we hadn't done that. I also believe, which there's evidence everywhere, that there is a renewed interest in providing grants and money for this project and for partnership and working together in this, even more so than was there with the Oak Bay section of Balco Creek. So I think that there are far more opportunities and possibilities in saving this land and building partnerships with the District of Saanich for park space, other opportunities. I also wanted to speak a little bit about the money, because this is about the money. There's no way we're selling property unless we want the money. So there's a strong desire on the currently, or a feeling, maybe almost a pressure, or like if we don't do this, we're not going to have enough money. But you know, when we look at the last few years, we have, through land sales and other deals, actually brought in $19.5 million, or 19 million, somewhere I might be off by $500,000. This is 2.5 million, which represents about what, 11% of that total of opportunity. It doesn't seem reasonable that every single land deal that comes before us that we take and that it's a good one. Somewhere in there, there's got to be somewhere where it doesn't go through. We can't always just be about the money. There is no assurance that this money is what we need to move on. I think our Cedar Hill project will continue to go forward with the money from the lands down north that we're going to get. So there is no pressure in the next 2 to 3 years in projects that we aren't going to be able to fund anyway. It's just really nice to have it in the kitty. But I'm not willing to sell off school district lands or any public lands to have money in the kitty. So I will not be supporting this, and I hope that my colleagues will consider other opportunities that could be available. This is not about hospice at all. They do fantastic work, and I really would like them to find a good, suitable home. But my mandate is ensuring that we do the very, very best to protect the assets of the school district for
and sorry,
the learning of students.
You're over time. You're over time. So
well,
yeah.
I'm done. First student.
Okay, next up, Rob, go ahead. And sorry, folks, I will try to keep folks more on time. I let that one go a bit.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try to talk quickly. First off, when I think about virtually every location where this district has sold schools and land in the last couple decades, I think also about where we've ended up with pressures on school capacity. You know, Hampton and Tillicum, Blanchard and George J. It goes on. I think that, as has been pointed out, this particular school, I'm grateful that we held on to it when we did back in 2007. It was absolutely integral in doing rapid seismic upgrading on a bunch of different schools. And as we see, with increasing densification, there is going to be more demand. It might not be a constant demand. What we saw from the 2000s to now is that we go through an ebb and flow in population. Because we have a momentary ebb doesn't mean it's always going to be there. In fact, it'll come back with a vengeance and will be that much more under pressure. We've already discussed the challenge of trying to find a new location in the downtown core. There's no land. So we're in that same boat. If we do sell, I think we should only be selling where we have a concrete purpose. As Trustee Whitaker said, conversion of land into revenue, unless we've got some sweet guaranteed investment portfolio that's going to give us huge returns, the land is our nest egg. And our mandate, our fiduciary responsibility is to manage those resources to the very best of our abilities for current and future students. I heard I can recall in one of our recent conversations or discussions talking about making decisions for the students of today. Well, not to say that I was in the same spot as previous boards, but I look at the decisions the previous boards made and the headaches that we've had to deal with afterwards. In my mind, the idea of selling land in any way, shape, or form to address either our $319 million facilities deficit, or even the annual deficit that increases because the grants from government are insufficient to keep up with the pressures on aging infrastructure. So we sell off this land, it would probably cover us for a year, and then we'll have to find some more land the next year. That's just unsustainable. Let's see, one of the things that I have real challenges with this process is that Victoria's Hospice came to us. That's great, but we've only entertained one proposal for this land. You know, at the very basics, fiduciary responsibility demands that we go out onto the market and actually find out what this property is worth and who's going to be the highest bidder. All the other things, zoning, everything else, that is in the municipality's responsibility, and it's through the municipality that the neighborhoods decide whether they want things or don't want things. Our responsibility is to get best value for the resources that we have. I'm concerned about what I heard about the potential for increased flooding on the school property. I understand it's marginal, that it's not significant, but I'd actually like to see the mapping, because if we are going to reduce the viability of the land that we have remaining on that site, that's a concern. I am reminded that the Friends of Balco Creek Society, if I'm not mistaken, in their letter, they said that they leveraged $870,000
Rob, you've got a minute left.
Construction of Oak Bay. Thank you, Chair. And I see every opportunity to do that again here. We don't need it. And finally, as Trustee Whitaker mentioned about a school next to a creek, I think about Sir James Douglas and the scrawny little artesian well called Waterworks that kids flock to at every single recess. It's a trickle. And those kids have so much fun, so much enjoyment. I think there is every opportunity to maintain this creek in a manner that is both educational and recreational, while keeping it very safe for our young students. I think that that's an opportunity that we should be looking for, and that we should be looking for opportunities to build on our assets, not disperse them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Further debate on the motion in question. Angie.
Thank you. I'd like to voice my support for this, particularly since it's just for the first two readings. Some of the comments that I'm hearing make it sound like the students aren't going to have access to that creek anymore. It's not going anywhere. And in fact, I would argue that there's not much access to that creek right now, seeing as how it's fenced off with the exception of a little bridge. I like having community partners. Hospice is a fantastic partner. It looks like they're going to be doing some absolutely incredible work, making that better for our students. And I think it's an amazing opportunity. I think we've got a whole month for these outlying questions to come forward and be answered. And I'm happy to move forward with this as it stands. Thanks.
Thank you, Angie. Any further debate? Jordan.
Thank you. I'll echo a lot of Angie's points in terms of, you know, what is currently there and what hasn't happened over the last many years, you know, to support caretaking and stewardship of that creek. And, you know, I'm really inspired by hospice wanting to take this on and their willingness to really bring to life that blueprint and be caretaking that. My Nana just passed away recently and spent time in hospice, and I'll tell you how much time we spent sitting outside and you know, listening to the birds. And you know, I have a real vision of how that creek could be a meeting place, you know, and how important it is to have that you know, intergenerational. And you know, I have a beautiful vision And, you know, to me, I don't want to sell off public lands. Like that is not, I am not on for that. But transferring lands to Island Health so that we can benefit and take care of our schools and that they can, you know, take care of that land and give benefit, because right now it's an empty lot. And it has been for a very, very long time. So I would not be in support of putting this out on the open market and trying to get best dollar. Like that would not, I'm not, that's to me would not be a viable path forward. I love that hospice really had a clear vision and that the creek is a part of their vision. And the proximity to the school too. So I feel really comfortable with where we are at. And I'm also mindful of our $319 million facilities maintenance deficit and the fact that we have kids who are in, you know, seismically unsafe schools. And, you know, as a parent, that really is, that safety piece is my top priority. And that's where I feel like my duty lies. So I feel hopeful about this, and I feel especially hopeful in relation to the passion that we've heard from the community and how there's such incredible commitment to climate action and to daylighting this really important creek. So I think I'm just really proud to be a part of this community, and I'm looking forward to supporting this project moving forward. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Jordan. Any
Sorry,
further?
also, if I'm talking in a hushed whisper, it's because I have kids sleeping behind me. So hopefully you can hear me.
I was guessing that was why it was so dark. Further debate, Nicole.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I won't reiterate what some of my colleagues have said around the table, but at this point, I can't support the disposal of this property. And I think, you know, first and foremost, as a Board of Education, our mandate, of course, is to protect the interests of our students and future generations who will need access to our land and to space to go to school. And quite frankly, I think that the information we have as a board right now in terms of enrollment and projections that we have from Beauregard make it pretty clear that we are expecting increased enrollment over the coming years and into the future. I, you know, certainly looked at some of the community plans and again, the projections there around densification. And, you know, folks, when they move into a neighborhood and families start moving in, people start having children and those children become school age, they will need our facilities to be there and available and not be overcrowded because we haven't had the foresight to think more than a few years into the future. I hear my colleagues, you know, and I understand their concerns that areas of the creek and the lot have not been maintained, and that there has been despite the previous board signing on in 2018 to that framework agreement, there has been a lull or a lack of maybe will or a lack of a partnership to take care of that land and to start to really actualize the vision contained in the blueprint. But I think this is a wake-up call for us as one of the partners to that. I think hopefully this will get us up and moving in the direction of looking for those unique partnerships to take advantage of the possibilities, whether it's an outdoor classroom, whether it's meandering the creek, or whether it's really taking advantage of some of the role that we can play as a public body in supporting some of the mitigation and adaptation that needs to happen around the creek and around that property. I look with interest in the past and at the fact that a board in 2007 thought about selling this exact piece of land that we're talking about tonight. And I think to myself, my goodness, thank goodness the community raised the alarm bells and persuaded the board not to sell this land. Because my goodness, how important has this site been as a swing space to allow our schools to be seismically upgraded? How many classes over the years, how many schools have been housed at Richmond Elementary? over the years to allow for those seismic upgrades. You know, we're not shrinking as a district, we're growing. And so, you know, I see it as extremely short-sighted to sell off property in order to, I mean, it's a drop in the ocean, isn't it? We have a budget of over 260 million a year. 2 million? I mean, really, it's a drop in the ocean, and it shouldn't really be the reason that we sell off this public asset. So I call on my colleagues, you know, to really think about the long-term needs of our communities, not the short-term troubles. And, you know, I also just really want to conclude by saying that this is absolutely not about the good work that the hospice does for our community, the absolutely essential work that they do. I'm hearing that from all my colleagues. And, you know, we came up against this sort of this idea that, you know, by not supporting a land sale because our partner happens to be, you know, a wonderful contributor in our community, that somehow, you know, we don't support that good work. And it couldn't be further from the truth. And this, I hope that parties aren't pitted against one another in that way. But so, yes, I just want to conclude by saying I appreciate the struggles that the hospice has had in finding a suitable site. But I feel very strongly that we as a board have to always put front and center our mandate and the need to protect this land for future students. So thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Further debate. Tom, go ahead.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed all the comments that have been made, and I'm really appreciative of the interest that the greater community has shown in Balco Creek. In the 25 years that I've been participating on the board, there's never been any interest in this particular section of Balco Creek. If that triangle of land was ever offered for sale before, that's news to me. I'd be interested to hear about that. I am very appreciative of the efforts of hospice to do some remediation in the Balco Creek area, and I think it's very inspiring as well that Saanich has taken an interest in that section of Balco Creek. I think that this development will be a very positive move for the students in the school, and I look forward to supporting it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Any further debate? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question on first reading of the bylaw as presented. All of those in favor of first reading, please signify. And those opposed? And first reading passes. Okay, and now we will move to second reading. Can I have a motion for second reading? Moved by Elaine and seconded by Tom. Any discussion or debate on second reading? Seeing and hearing none, I will call the question on second reading of the bylaw. All those in favor, please signify. And those opposed? And the motion carries. And so we will have the third reading of the bylaw coming to the board, as we've heard, next month. We'll now go into question period. And let me just check my emails and see if we have, I don't see any questions that have been submitted, but we do have, I'll just go to Communications Director McPhail. Do we have any questions in, Lisa?
There are no questions.
Thank you. So we did have a question submitted late in December at our December board meeting, which I think I got after the meeting. So I'm going to read the question and I'm going to read the response just so that we make sure we get it in the record. So the question is, how much money has the district spent on anti-racism initiatives in the district, including the anti-racism education for staff and trustees? Has the board or district invested any of its resources in investigating and addressing any incidences or allegations of racist behavior throughout the 9 months, specifically by trustees? And the answer for that is on June 3rd, 2021, in the 2021-2022 preliminary budget, the board approved $50,000 for reconciliation and anti-racism. The interim superintendent has drafted a learning plan as directed by the board motion, which will be presented to the board at a future open meeting. Of the $50,000 budget, $4,000 has been spent to date on a cultural perspectives training session for trustees and senior staff. The district has not invested resources in investigations related to racism. We'll go to public disclosure of in-camera items. We have G1, record of special in-camera Board of Education meeting, October 5th, 2021. G2, record of special in-camera Board of Education meeting, December 13th. And then record of in-camera meeting, December 13th, and record of special in-camera board meeting, January 10th. We have no new business and no notices of motion, so we'll go to adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Tom, seconded by Angie. All those in favor? And any opposed? Not opposed. Thank you very much, everybody.